In this lesson, we're going to be going over WFA connections. In Five9 workflow automation, a connection is essentially a data flow pipeline between WFA and some sort of external system or possibly another Five9 component. It helps define where the data comes from, the source system that it's coming from, how it's transformed or mapped as that data comes in and out, where it's sent, and when it runs, either by event triggered or a scheduled job as part of the connection settings. If you look at my screen, you'll see that I have the Whendu built-in and the CX built-in. Those come standard on all WFA implementations. But you'll also see that I have Five9 Agent Assist and Five9 VCC. These are connections that come pre-built out of the box that I've used to say that, hey, I want to establish a connection between Five9 VCC platform, and I also want to be able to do some work between WFA and Five9 Agent Assist. So when you set these up, what it does is it connects to these systems with, and I'll show in a minute the different parameters and things that are required for this, but it says, hey, I have this product, I have this third-party product, or I have, I'm working with Five9 VCC. What it does is it allows us to establish this pre-built connection that has all the bells and whistles all built into it. We just authenticate to it, and things just happen out of the box based on what connection we have. So in this case, I want to say, I want to be able to do things in my Five9 VCC domain or with Agent Assist, as stated before. If I click the plus down here in the corner, you'll see a list of other pre-built connections that are available out of the box. And also there can be some custom schemas that we can get into in a later lesson. But you'll see in here a lot of common use cases. Say, for instance, Amazon S3, popular when you want to send data to an Amazon S3 bucket. You'll see compliance for DNCs. You see the Five9 VCC, Five9 ESS, BigQuery. You'll see Office 365. So if you want to be able to send emails out from within WFA, that's in there. If you want to send Teams message to a channel, that's in here. MySQL, databases, Slack messages, Zendesk, ServiceNow. A lot of these products that any customer might have connectivity to, they want to make it simpler to be able to interact with those. So WFA can perform any action that has an API. All of these connections behind the scenes are API commands that are essentially being run for these. So you can do that on your own, but a lot of these come with pre-built APIs essentially behind the scenes that allows us just to perform these actions and gather information simply out of the box by connecting to it. And you can see if you go into any of these, so I'll select just Five9 VCC, you'll see a box pop up, and anyone who's familiar with Five9 in a VCC connection, you can see username, password, regions, that all should look familiar to your domain name. So that's for Five9 VCC. Now, if I go to, say, Amazon S3, you'll see a completely different authorization. And anyone who uses this should look familiar. And if not, you can do research into what you need to establish this connection. But each one of these connections has its own parameters and things that you need in order to access these accounts and establish a connection in here out of the box. Now that we've established what a connection is, we're going to go into streams that live underneath connections. And I'm going to basically read right from our documentation because I think it does a pretty good job of explaining this. So each connection establishes predefined data feeds called streams that you use to create analytics, visualizations, automations, and integrations. Streams coincide with actions that the application or system performs. You use streams to build actions within your reactions and visualize data points and boards. Now, to view the stream details for a connection, we go over next to one, click on the eye, it says view details, and then inside of here you see all the streams. So these are the streams for the Five9 connection here. So understand that each connection comes with its own streams, and those are established as part of WFA. So when you connect these, there's already some predetermined actions that it takes to go out and collect certain streams that would be common to that connection. So in this case, we're looking at, Five9 VCC, so you see agents, and as you go down, you'll also see skills, outbound, inbound, auto dial campaigns. All these things come out of the box for the Five9 VCC connection. If we go back to like Agent Assist. You'll see that that comes with the Five9 Agent Assist stream, and then there's also a dialog flow. So each one is different. So if you have an Amazon S3 connection, that's going to be different, have different streams to it. Salesforce connectivity is going to have different streams to it. Each one out of the box comes with a different set of streams that are applicable to that particular connection. Now, if we go into view details of a stream, you'll see various components here, which I'll describe. So up here we have stream type. That's a application or system feature that's detected by workflow automation on the connection. You use the stream type when building boards and reaction workflows to aid in navigating to the set of streams for the selected connected system. Then you have a stream ID. You want to be familiar with that. You will need to reference that with certain actions. So each stream under a connection will have its own unique stream ID. And then you have the name, that's a description of the stream. You'll have the created date. You'll have the updated date when it was initially connected. When's the last update? The last ping is the last time that WFA had reached out to ping the connectivity in the system on that case. And then you have the various, you'll have some underneath. We'll get into what a root stream is in a minute. But under each one, you'll have different states that are applicable to that particular stream. So like in this one, you see agents logged in, agents not ready. That's applicable to this stream here. And then also there are events and actions menu that's going to be available for each stream. And the tooltip will display the API name for that event or action. And then there's also webhooks, which we'll get into shortly as well. This shows, so if you go up here under this one, again, you see actions. And in here for this connection, you'll see the various actions that are applicable to this particular connection. This will allow you, if you want to be able to, if I click on this, I'm saying add skill to campaign, I can put in the skill name, the campaign name, and run this action right from within this stream. And also I can do an event here as well. So say if I want to trigger something on call disposition, here's some fields that are available out of the box for me to populate, and I can push that event in manually if I so choose. Now, understand that these are not tests. You can test with these, but these are live. So if you do this action, it will perform that action live. So if you send a broadcast message, it will send a broadcast message to the parties you specify in VCC into the domain that you're connected to, just as you do here. This isn't, it won't just, go into the void. It will actually run these things. So just keep that in mind as you establish these connections and go through these streams and perform these actions, that all of these things, you can simulate an event, but that will, if there's a reaction that's based on that event, it will trigger that event as well. Now we'll go through the stream types. So there's a few different stream types. As I stated before, there's a root stream. So I'll go back to this here. The top one is what's considered the root stream. It's the basis of the connection that handles account authentication and manages global configuration option settings. This stream displays in lists that use only the name of the connection. So each connection within WFA will have the top stream is always considered the root stream. And then when we're talking about global configuration options, each connection, not all of them will have this, but you'll see this is the VCC connection. You have the standard, created, updated, last ping, but you see with the VCC connection, there is a root only setting. You can read the description below it. But this is an example of an overall sort of global WFA setting that's in here. This is a root only setting in this case for Five9 VCC is saying, do you need all the information as far as like the agents, the different states, agents, campaigns, all that information populated? Some people only need to use like the API, the actions and things as part of this and don't need all the information supplied to the skills and the agents and things like that. So maybe you set to root only yes or no, depending on what your need is. So that's a global configuration based on the root stream. Then you also have the domain ID and the SMS service client credentials that you see in here. So that's if you need to use the built-in actions for SMS, you would need to supply the credentials in here, and that would go for the whole connections and considering the domain ID in there as well. So these are all global. And again, that's called the root stream. Now, the next one is called a system stream. It's automatically generated based on features of the connected technology. The stream type displays in lists that use the name of the connection and the features. So the system stream, so in this case, you have the root stream, which is at the top, and then you have the system streams. These all come out of the box. If you have it set, in this case, root only to no, then it will populate all these agents and skills and things for this connection. So each one will have its own. Again, like S3, Salesforce, all those will have their own out of the box system streams that come with it. And then if I click plus, you'll see I can create streams. There's a couple for this one. Not all of them will have these either, but the Five9 VCC connection has a state change and a Five9 report one. These are considered user-defined streams that you create. So you can either do these ones that come with the connection, or there's also the ability to create your own schema, which will have its own streams that you define as well. Now let's talk about some of the other various aspects of streams here. So I'm going to go into this one here. And what we have inside of here, I'll skip down to what I want to talk about, is states. Okay. So states is a single typed field that represents an important piece of information about a stream, essentially a statistic. For example, the number of unread emails in a Gmail account, the number of open leads in a Salesforce account, and the number of rows in an Oracle database table are states. In this one, you'll see an individual user and their states. So this individual user here, tracking the after call work duration, what state they're currently in, their average handle time, hold time, all these things are part of the stream and they are called states. There are different input types for this. Boolean, which is true, false. There's double for floating point numbers, integers, a list, what's called a long, and then a map of abstract dictionary of key value pairs, and also a string. Additionally, there are events, which you can see here, new voicemail. I'll actually skip back to going into the root stream where a lot of the events and actions are available here. So when we talk about events, an event represents something happening in a stream at a single point in time, such as a new lead created in a Salesforce account, an incoming SMS message in a Twilio account, or an interaction with a set disposition in the CCaaS platform. An event is a collection of state values carrying contextual information such as the subject line of an email, body of an SMS message, or the phone number of a new lead. Each state value is linked to an event field that carries a matching input type. So basically, you have these lists of events that are applicable to that certain connection. Sometimes that has to be set up. So in one of these lessons, we'll get into creating webhooks to fire events into some of these connections. Some will happen on their own. But in this case, you have these different events that are available out of the box that we would set up to say anytime a call gets dispositioned, that's considered an event. So once you establish the connectivity with this and you create this so in this case, your VCC environment, an agent might select a certain disposition. And we want to say, based on that disposition, send that into WFA and have it perform a few different actions based on that. So that is called the event. The event is call dispositioned in that case. So Salesforce, a new case created, things like that. Those are all the events that take place. And then we also have actions. So you see this list of VCC actions in here, get skill info, get contacts, things like that. Actions are commands executed in a stream. States and events push data to workflow automation, and actions are pushed from workflow automation to the connected system. For example, you can configure a reaction to initiate an action that sends an email from a Gmail account, inserts a row into an Oracle database table, or scrubs a lead in Salesforce account for compliance. Okay, now that we've discussed states, streams, events, and actions, I also want to discuss a couple other pieces of this inside of a connection. So each connection will have the streams, user-defined system, root, streams, but then you'll also have the part here. Now there's nothing in this one because I'm not using this, but it's a good example of this is where, so if you want to see, you can go to reactions and get an overall look of all the reactions that are applicable to this connection. There's nothing in this one because we don't have a reaction that is using this particular connection currently. But this is a spot where you go to see, I want to see all of the reactions that are currently created that is using this connection. So currently this one is not being used, but if I had a reaction that's using it, you would see it appear here. And then that way you can go easily into those and edit those from here. So you can go into reactions from here, or you can go into the overall reactions here. And then lastly, a key part of this for any connection is webhooks. This is really, really useful for setting up connectivity, especially with the 5.9 connection. I'll set this up here shortly, but it also gives you the webhook helper. We'll dedicate a whole section to talk about the webhook helper, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and set up an example here. In this case, I just want what I can do with the root stream. I'm going to select all of these just so I have them there for future use. The name can be anything. We're just going to call it VCC webhooks for this. I'm going to click next and finish. Now we're going to let the system do what it needs to do so that we can talk about this. Okay, once that comes online, in order to use it, you do need to make it active. So we're going to flip this on. And the thing that I want to point out is this gives you a set of webhooks. So this is your base URL and the stream that you're using this for. And if you go into view details of this, you can see webhooks that apply to each one of these. So these are states. So if for some reason I wanted to set for an agent, the agents on call or number of agents ready, if I wanted to set that, I could simply use a webhook with the URL here. And then you'll also see content type header, and then you'll also see data. So I would pull like this set of data here. I can populate this, say in a Postman or something, whatever API tool you may want to use. I can set those values with these parameters and it will push an update to these particular ones. Now, what you would normally do here is use this for actions. So if I go inside of actions and I go to either one of these, whichever one's applicable for my use case, and I can go in and I can run these actions with this webhook. Okay, so if I wanted to add, if I just wanted a webhook that I can use to add a record to a list, I can use this and just use this webhook, follow the data mapping here, make sure you get any things that are not optional in there. And then anything that is optional, you feel free to put whatever value you want in for those ones that are applicable for that particular call. So you can do that. And then there's also events. So in this case, if I needed to create a connection to send data in for on disposition, I can come in here and I can find call dispositioned, get the URL of this one. I can put that into a VCC connector and I can supply the fields from the data section, pass values in, and that's what's going to create an event for 5.9 VCC. So there'll be sections on all this, but I wanted to give a high level overview of how all of this works. And so you'd have that URL. And then the other big thing in here is the webhook helper. This is a very, very useful tool. I'll dedicate a whole section to it, but I just wanted to kind of go over what you can do here. It's very similar to what we talked about earlier as far as being able to push events and actions through the stream itself, but this will actually provide feedback for you. So let's see. We'll go to lookup user, okay? And the nice part about this allows you to run these calls, these actions here and get the feedback of what it would look for. So we're just going to put in the user that we had before, actually at SME. And you see it delivers back the information related to this user that I did a lookup for. So anytime in a reaction, you want to see the values that would be produced from that particular call, you can make these calls with the webhook helper, and this will give you all the information so that you can view without having to actually go into a reaction and perform these. Then to finish up this section, I just wanted to go into troubleshooting a little bit here. So all of these are online, but there is a chance that when you, especially when you first build these, you will have times when maybe it'll say it's offline, or maybe you're not seeing all the things that you need to see. Understand that WFA is simply using the APIs that are available for each one of these connections. So let's look at the 5.9 VCC connection. While it's in WFA, it's leveraging all the API calls that it needs in order to establish this connection and also get the streams and run all of these particular actions and get the states and things like that. It's not WFA. If WFA has a problem, it's not really usually WFA that's having the problem. It's something with the API that it's calling that's having the problem. So we'll look at this particular one and we'll go into this and I'll go into the root stream. And I know that when I created this, I initially had a problem. And I'm going to go this week. And here you'll see some errors that have occurred. So you can see admin fault, there's an internal error in this one. So I need to look into this and see why that's occurring. And then one of the other ones you'll see here is invalid account, zero security, answered specified. So when this was first created, it did require on the 5.9 side to answer the security questions in order to establish the account that was created for this connection. Now that is a 5.9 API error. That is not a WFA error. It's pulling it into WFA so you can see it. But I want to make sure it's clear that everything in the background with WFA in regard to these connections are using that particular connection's APIs. So when we're talking things like Salesforce, it's using the Salesforce APIs to establish that connection and to make these API calls, to populate these streams and establish the connection. So if you're experiencing it being offline or certain actions you can't take, you'll want to actually look at the application you're connecting to and see if there's something you need to troubleshoot here. So in order to establish the connection for this one, I had to either disable the security questions or I needed to answer them so that it could properly establish connectivity with this particular connection.